Having committed a robbery, you can not only become a target of the police, but also get your share of glory. It is enough just to steal an impressive amount of money, preferably several $1,000,000. And then the media will talk about this crime, and the thieves will be looked for all over the world. Many even dream of stealing, which will provide them with free money for the rest of their lives. Fortunately, things don't go further than fantasies. However, forensic medicine knows several cases when people manage to rob all their lives. These high-profile crimes have already gone down in history, but it was not always possible to avoid fair justice. City Bank of New York. On the night of March 20, 1831, James Honeyman and William J. Murray infiltrated the City Bank of New York on Wall Street. They used duplicate keys made with wax casts. During the night, the robbers emptied the vault in the amount of $245,000. They left the bank in the morning, waiting for the change of the city guard and closing the doors behind them. On March 21, the New York Journal of Commerce released a story about the incident under the headline "The Great Bank Robbery." Later, an announcement was made for a $5,000 reward for the return of bank property. Then the award was increased to $10,000. The thieves were seized a few days later by Constable Jacob Hayes, who immediately suspected Honeyman, who had already been accused of robbing a store. During a search, they found $185,000. The criminals received 5 years in prison. Some of the stolen money could not be returned. Some of the stolen money could not be returned. Some of the stolen money could not be returned. United California Bank. The robbery was organized by the famous safecracker Emil Dincio. He took his brother, 2 nephews, brother-in-law and 2 more friends with him. At night, they used dynamite to blow a hole in the roof of the United California Bank vault and got inside. Disabling the alarm, the criminals broke into 458 bank cells and left the scene of the crime without hindrance. There is a version that the bandits planned to steal money collected by President Richard Nixon for the election campaign, but they confused the bank. A few months later, the gang carried out a similar robbery in Ohio. This allowed the FBI to track down and subsequently arrest all the robbers, as well as recover most of the stolen money. Northern Bank. On the evening of December 19, 2004, a group of criminals disguised as police officers broke into the homes of 2 Northern Bank managers Chris Ward and Kevin McMullen, taking their families hostage. The next day, threatening to kill their loved ones, the bandits ordered the men to go to work at the bank. When the facility closed, Ward and McMullen opened the underground storage facilities. To take out the loot, the criminals made 2 flights in a van. Authorities said the Irish Republican Army was involved in the robbery. The IRA leadership declined to take responsibility, calling the accusations a new attempt to undermine the peace process. The case remains unsolved. British Bank of the Middle East. The robbery took place during the Lebanese Civil War. A group of unknown persons with weapons broke into the British Bank of the Middle East, which was closed at that time. To get into the safe, the criminals blew up the wall of the building. The production ranged, according to various estimates, from $20 million to $50 million in the form of cash, gold bars, jewelry and securities. Leaving the bank, the robbers set fire to the building, as it was supposed to cover their tracks. It is still not known for certain who carried out the raid. According to one version, these were members of the Palestine Liberation Organization. Central Bank of Brazil. 3 months before the robbery, the criminals rented a commercial property in the city center and dug a 78-meter-long tunnel under 2 city blocks to the Central Bank of Brazil. The tunnel was equipped with wooden supports, lighting and ventilation system. Late in the evening on August 6, 2005, robbers broke through the reinforced concrete wall of the bank and entered the room where the money was kept. They took out 3.5 tons of paper notes. 164 million Brazilian reais. Of the 25 people allegedly involved in the robbery, only 8 were arrested. Of the 164 million reais, only 20 million were returned. 4 million reais, only 20 million were returned. Securitas storage. On the evening of February 21, criminals in police uniforms kidnapped Securitas Bank vault manager Colin Dixon and his family. They were taken to a storage facility and threatened to open the gate for the van. In an hour, the criminals loaded £53 million belonging to the Bank of England into the van and fled. The investigation cost an unprecedented £5 million by British standards. Robbery charges were brought against 13 people, of whom 7 were convicted. The main organizer of the robbery, a former participant in Fighting Without Rules Lee Murray, was sentenced in 2010 to 10 years. After attempting to escape, his term of imprisonment was increased to 25 years. Of the £53 million, the police managed to find only £21 million. Brink's-Mat Warehouse. On November 26, 1983, at 6:40 a.m., 6 armed robbers wearing masks and security uniforms broke into the Brink's-Mat Warehouse, where Johnson Matthey Bank gold bars were stored. After disabling the guards and dousing them with gasoline, they opened the vault. As it turns out later, one of the guards was their accomplice. The production of criminals was 6,800 gold bars worth £26 million and diamonds worth £100,000. The press called the robbery the crime of the century. A reward of £2 million was awarded for information about the robbers. In 1984, the organizers of the robbery, Brian Robinson and Mickey McAvoy, were arrested and imprisoned for 25 years each. In 1986, Kenneth Noah was sentenced to 11 years for his involvement in smelting ingots and money laundering. Despite a massive police investigation that lasted almost 20 years, most of the gold was never returned. Knightsbridge Deposit Center. The robbery was organized by the Italian criminal Valerio Vixay, who had moved to London the year before. At home he was wanted for 50 robberies. Having recruited the managing director of the deposit center, Vixay, along with an accomplice, entered the Knightsbridge Bank under the guise of a client and asked to rent a safe. Imperceptibly carrying weapons into the vault, the robbers neutralized the guards and hung a closed sign on the bank's door. Having broken into the safes, they took possession of £60 million. The police arrived at the crime scene only an hour later. Forensic experts found Vixay's fingerprint there. The police took him under surveillance and soon detained those involved in the robbery. Vixay was sentenced to 22 years in prison. Bank Dar es Salaam. On July 11, 2007, more than $250 million in cash disappeared from a private bank Dar es Salaam in Iraq. Law enforcement officials said the robbery was carried out by 2 or 3 bank security guards. The authorities suspected that the robbers had contacts with the police and security forces. As the New York Times wrote at the time, it is unclear why the bank had so much money in dollars and how the robbers managed to take away such a large amount without being discovered. It was not possible to find the perpetrators. Central Bank of Iraq. On May 6, 2003, the New York Times reported that a few days before the start of the war in Iraq, $1 billion in cash had been stolen from the country's central bank. Later this was confirmed by the official representative of the U.S. State Department, Richard Boucher. As the press reported, the son of the ousted president, Qusay Hussein, with an advisor arrived at the bank on March 18 at 4 a.m. demanding to give them about $900 million and €100 million. A large sum, almost a quarter of the country's foreign exchange reserves, was loaded into 3 trucks in 2 hours and taken away in an unknown direction. The world press dubbed the incident the largest bank robbery in history. Later, large sums of money were discovered in one of Saddam Hussein's palaces, including $650 million in cash. But it was not precisely established whether it was money taken out of the central bank. These were the 10 largest robberies in history. Thanks for watching, subscribe to the channel if you want to know more. Goodbye.